Here come the boys. Y'all ready to go swimming, baby? Come on. Give it up. Get out of that water. I tried telling y'all, it's swim lessons, baby.
6 state championships, over 400 career wins. He's been nominated for the National Coach of the Year. He is head boys basketball coach for the Minot High Magicians, Dean Winczewski, the man behind the towel. He's one of the greatest coaches to ever grace us here in the state of North Dakota. It was a fun time talking to him and learning about this year's team and getting a chance to talk to him before the year-end tournaments with the WDA and state for that class and just getting to know Coach Wincheski a little bit more was a lot of fun and to kind of see who the true guy is and I really like him and I wish the Minot High Magicians the best of luck. But before we get to Coach Wincheski, we got to talk about Neighborhood Pediatric Therapy, our new sponsor. They're located in the central part of Minot, and they are providing speech therapy services for individuals from birth to age 21. Services range from free screenings, speech and language evaluations, and therapy for a variety of areas, including feeding, language, speech and sounds, and auditory processing. They also accept a wide variety of insurances. You can look them up and to get more information about them on their website at www.neighborhoodnd.com. That's neighborhoodnd.com. You can also reach them the old-fashioned way. Give them a ring, 701-837-8877, about any questions or set up an appointment for your child. Maybe I should go see him after reading that ad. Next up is Henny's Coffee. Henny's Coffee, which is located in beautiful downtown Crosby, North Dakota, right on Main Street. They not only have coffee and espressos, but also Zingers, which is a flavored drink with Red Bull in it. Not allowed to drink those anymore, along with all types of baked goods. And the main reason I like Henny's, it's an all-time vibe place. Give Henny's a look up on Facebook for their social media. That's Henny's, Hennys Coffee, or give them a ring the old-fashioned way, 701-965-2182. Next sponsor is one of our favorite ones. That's ProSafe. ProSafe, which is a locally owned and operated company since 2000. Wow. Out of Williston, North Dakota. ProSafe is a name you can rely on. They offer expert pest control, ground sterilization, as well as red rock for the oil field production. Give ProSafe a call at 701-774-3167 or check them out at www.prosafe.com. That's ProSafe, PROSAFE.com. Next up is UpTop. UpTop, the clothing company. UpTop grew up from the ground up, and that's why their roots are so important to the team at UpTop. UpTop was formed in Butte, Montana from its founders of Luke and Colt Anderson. UpTop continues to be designed in Montana with Butte's tough as nails mantra, with apparel for both men and women. Check them out on social media at UPTOP, that's UpTop, or just online at teamuptop.com. Last but not least, Glosso Angus, a proud sponsor of swim lessons, is your premier source for registered Black Angus since 1973. Glosso Angus cattle showcase dominance, durability, and docility and are built to thrive on the northern plains. Check out Glosso Angus, that's GLASOE, Angus, ANGUS.com. They actually just put a lot of really cool stuff up on their website, so make sure you check out Glosso Angus. And Tegan's Interior, we're remodeling the studio down here, and Tegan's Interior is going to come do some work for us. They're located on Main Street, Crosby, North Dakota. That's Tegan's, TAEGANS Interior, and they offer all types of stuff, anything from shades, blinds, flooring, lighting, just about anything you need when remodeling your home or building that dream home. Reach out to Tyler and Nikita Swanson at tegansinterior.com or give them a call at 701-965-6367. As always, thank you for joining us. I'm really excited for this Dean podcast. He's the man. I wish the Minot High Magicians all the luck in the world as they move forward, but also don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. We got some merch coming in here in 2 weeks, so we're excited about that launch. But without further ado, I give you the one, the only, the great and powerful Dean Wincheski. Hey, good to meet you, and thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. It's kind of a fun opportunity to be able to do these things once in a while.
And from your gym, I mean, you were standing right there last night coaching the kids to a nice win. And when this comes out, it'll be right before the WDA as you guys are kind of gearing up for that. What's your your current thoughts on kind of your team right now?
I love our kids. They're a blast to work with. I mean, first of all, you can look at the record and throw all that out right now. They're just really good people, tremendous students. But they care about each other. They want what's best for each other. They got great attitudes in the gym no matter what's going on. They seem to always compete. And so you start with that. It makes the season a lot of fun regardless of your record. And then you put on the fact that right now we have kids who are competing at a really high level and doing little things correctly. And we find a way to get enough baskets. Some nights it's a rain barrel and some days it's a thimble. And last night it was a thimble. But we do the little things that we believe in defensively and rebounding that help us be successful.
And one thing I wanted to ask you, because I saw your eyes kind of light up when you walk to the gym here. What's the feeling that you get when you walk into a basketball gym? Oh,
it's awesome. I think back to when I was little and I started going to camps, and my parents started taking me to games over at Ryan and taking me to some Minot High games, and it was always a cool experience going into the gym. Just that feeling and the bleachers being pulled out, and you think back to the band playing, and I always remind our kids to start the year what it was like for me for my first game when I got a chance to play varsity, and you go upstairs and the band's playing and it's loud and it's hot and there's not a lot of feelings like it, and one of those things though that when I think you get to be my age, you start to treasure it a little more because you recognize all of the great things that come from it, and all the tremendous opportunities I've had because of it.
Well, listen, Coach, 400 wins. Just went over that. You've got 6 total state championships. Is there, just talking about some games you've had, obviously a lot of memorable ones, is there one that sticks out in your mind over those?
There's a lot of them that I think about. If you talk about in Dickinson, we had some unbelievable games with Bismarck, and I still think about the first time we were able to beat Minot High. I mean, it took 3 years. We'd beaten everybody else in my first 2 years, and we couldn't beat Minot. They were the standard bearer. Gene Manson, obviously before me, had built a tremendous program, and we're just trying to follow that. But there's a lot of games, and what's sad is for someone like me, I actually think of the games we could have had. And I think about last year at the state tournament, how poor of a job I did at the end of that game to have us prepared to stop Red River on their last play, and that's the stuff that is maybe the most driving behind it, because you look at the missed opportunities, and it's not so much for me because I've coached 24 years as a head coach or 25 now, and because you want those kids to experience all the things that you have and all the great things that you can by winning big games and having success in tournaments and all of that. And so I look back at those things and there's probably more regrets with losses that I remember with those, because it's like, God, had we done this, had I actually thought of doing this, we probably would have found some success. So it's kind of one of those things that there's a lot of great memories, but there's a lot of stuff that drives you to continue to learn because of mistakes that you make.
Were you there when Joe Hanstead was there?
Yep.
So you were his coach?
Yep. That was my last year. He was a freshman.
Okay.
And that was speaking of a great group of kids, we'd just won the title the year before.
Yep.
And that was a special group because my brother-in-law was actually a senior that year.
Really?
And so I got to coach him and then Joe, but we had a tremendous group of seniors. We had 8 seniors that year, and we started off rocky, and then we ran 10 of 11 to end the year. And then had to win a play-in to get into the state tournament, and then had an unbelievable double overtime win in the first round of state. And then played Bismarck in the semis and just ran out of gas. They were loaded, but that was a special year. Those kids played so hard, and that was one of the years that we really went almost fully to a 5-out, to a 50 look and spread it. And it's different than we did now. We did a lot more screening and reading, and it was that Rick Majerus motion that if you've watched any videos of his, it's his stuff, and slipping, and there was so many great things that went with it. And so that was Joe's first year, and then he
He's
blew
a great
up.
player.
Phenomenal. And then he just blew up his last 3, and it would have been amazing to see the numbers he put up had he not had some injury issues.
Yeah. And he went to Boise State?
Yep, went to Boise.
Okay.
and played more when he was younger. And then they continued to recruit, and that's the tough part that people don't realize about D1 is, number one, you have to be exceptionally talented, and they're always looking for the next guy, and they just kept recruiting, and he did get some time as he went on and had a nice career, but he's back in Dickinson now and raising his family.
Was it tough leaving Dickinson?
It was. That's so many great friends. I look back on guys that helped me as a young coach, and it wasn't just basketball coaches, but leaving them and seeing their commitment, and we had built something really special there. They'd never won a state title, and we had managed to get two, and the relationships you built with kids and the staff and great administration to work with. But it was one of those things that when I was younger, you always had in the back of your mind that if mine had ever opened up, you wanted to have that chance. And when it did, it took my wife some convincing, because she's from Dickinson, and that's where her family was. And once we started looking at it, she agreed. And now, fortunately, we've been here for 16.
In sports, there's a lot of times where somebody retires, and then look at like Brett Favre with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers trying to step into these big shoes like Brett Favre. You came here, like you were talking earlier, a great coach was before you in Manson. What was that like to step in, try to fill those big shoes, which you've done exceptionally well, but when you're first coming in, new guy in town, trying to fill the shoes, what was that like?
It was probably more frustrating, not because of any perception from the outside, but it was that pressure that you feel internally that I have to do this really well. There's this standard that's been set by Gene's programs in the past, making it 20 plus straight years and 4 state titles and all of the great things. And I think he was in 9 title games or something crazy that he had an opportunity to coach in, and those first few years were frustrating because you want that immediate success. But we're different, Gene and I, and in how we coach and things we believe in, and so it took a while to be able to build that kind of trust with the kids, and whether it was a parent or not, there was always that, well, this is what we hadn't done this before. This isn't the way it was in the past. And it was that third year when we had a group again that started off rough. And then I think we went undefeated until second to the last game of the season in the new year. I think we ran January and most of February. And we ended up having a great year, ended up 18-7, and just couldn't make a perimeter shot. Fargo North was huge, and they sat in a 2-3, and we just couldn't make enough shots against them. But still, it was a tremendous step forward, and it was one of those things that, okay, it's going to be fine. And it's not that it immediately changed and everything was great, but you could start to see getting further along in what we wanted to do.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and that leads me to my next one. And you talked a little bit about like your 5-out offensive philosophy. What did you kind of going into creating your own program? What was in your mind that you wanted to have offensively?
Well, it's kind of funny because when I first got the job in Dickinson, you go all the way back then, and we want to run motion, and we want, okay, how do we do this, and getting a post, and you don't realize when you start that process how challenging it is. And then it got put on the back burner because we were 6'9", 6'7" with Ott and Brown and Bauer and Mormon and those kids we had in Dickinson. So we went to the 3-out 2-end and did a lot of high-low things for a couple of years, and we kind of stayed with that. And then it was a group of kids that were juniors. It was Tate Kick and Marcus Fridley and those kids. When they were juniors, we didn't have a true post player. And I talked to Mike Hendrickson at South at a team camp and Greg Limke, and they both were doing some things in camps with 5-outs, teaching their kids movements and things of that nature. And I just dove into videos, and it was just all of a sudden at that point that this was what we wanted to do. And like I said, it was that 2007, 2008 team that kind of really was really good at it. And then when we got here, we went back to the high-low. We had the Crosbys, and we had some other kids, and then we kind of slowly got back into it in about 2000 and I want to say about 17. We got really back invested in the 5-out, and we've changed it. There's a lot less screening. Our off season is spent doing a lot of skill development work rather than playing team camps and doing all those things, because we want to be able to space the floor and allow kids to be more creative. So it's kind of gotten to that point where we want to force bad closeouts and play off what the defense does and really simplify things rather than kids having to think, okay, what's the defense doing? Do I curl? Do I flare? Is it a back cut? Is it a slip? We want it to be as simple as humanly possible where kids can just react and play rather than having to think. And we've gotten to be pretty good at it. Last night with a team like Century, it's hard to do that because of how well they guard. So we went to a lot of sets and try to take advantage of some matchups that we had. But it's kind of one of those things where it's become, we want to simplify this game. And we as coaches are the worst at that. You know that. I saw this and we can attack here if we do this. And then by the time you draw it all up and you're trying to explain it to kids, they're looking at you cross-eyed. And we did that earlier in the year. And then it was one game where we said we're going to go 50 and we're going to go man, and that's it. And it's been pretty effective. Had a little hiccup obviously against Bismarck, but the 5 out. We don't have a true post kid. We have kids that can post, and we have that option in our offense, but it's more of reading and seeing opportunities that present themselves. And so that makes practices so valuable because there's a lot of communication as, okay, what are you seeing here? How do you create this? And in that our kids have been really receptive to trying different things.
Talking about being receptive, being competitive, running a great offense, you coach your son. Your son is the point guard. My dad was my coach in junior high, so I kind of get that. What's it like, though, for you to be this great coach, and you have your son who's a really good player, too, but he's not only a player, he's kind of the quarterback of the offense. You guys are kind of a different team when he comes off. He's got to go back on. He's a great kid. What's it like for you, though, to coach your son?
It's been a blast. We actually, it was funny when we decided to move him up when he was a freshman, my wife basically told us that home is off limits.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And so we talk very, very little about basketball when we're at home, unless he brings it up.
How did you take that news? Your wife said that.
I was good with it because it was one of those things that you have to have boundaries. You hear so many horror stories about not only coaches, but parents with kids and car rides and the dinner table and all of that. And, unfortunately, probably when I was younger and had my boys were younger and playing, I can look back now and see myself doing that. And you don't want that relationship with it. You want it to be a place where, at home, if he wants to talk about it, great. If I'm going to say something about it, it's not going to be derogatory. It's not going to be negative. It's going to be, okay, do you see this or whatever? One thing about Eric is he's obsessed with film. Like, he's a film junkie, and he has stuff that he sees. So he is, as a point guard, he's that kid that kind of gets what we want to do. Now, that doesn't mean that he's perfect by any stretch. I mean, he had a couple of plays last night that were a little uncharacteristic, and he bricked on a couple things, but he does a really good job of getting us organized. He's tremendously vocal. Like, he has followed the leadership of guys like Deontay Martinez and Derrick Deset and Eric Wentz. He got to play with the latter two, and how vocal they were and how important it was to be communicative when he was on the floor. And he's taken that to heart, and he does a really good job of getting us organized. I think the last half of the season, he's done a better job of leading as far as being positive. I think himself, he's so hard on himself because he wants to do so well. He has these expectations and these goals for himself that probably about 13 games into the season, he was really struggling and trying to do too much. And I think he's finally letting the game come to him a little bit more now.
That's an important piece.
Yes,
that's a huge piece.
Absolutely. And at times maybe a little too much because we do rely on him getting into the lane to create for others. So he's still trying to find that balance a little bit, but it's really fun coaching him, and he knows me. He's seen how I am. So, like, if I get on him, he just looks at me and he nods his head and he goes, I know. And then he flushes the noise and listens to the message. And for the most part, our kids are awesome about that. And they'll actually, it's funny, we had kids in class that are friends with the kids on our team. And they're like, oh my God, coach, they say, I always ask them how, they go, you just listen to what he says. He's just loud. That's all it is. You just listen to the message and don't focus on the volume. it's fine, and very little of it's negative. Almost 99% is coaching and positive. Unfortunately, that other 1% is sarcasm, and I can't shake that for my personality, unfortunately. But it's one of those things. Like with Eric, it's been a blast coaching him. It's hard, because he hasn't shot tremendously well this year. Like, he's had a very nice year. He's rebounding and sharing, and he guards tremendously well, and he's starting to shoot the ball better. But you want him to do so well, because I know when he was growing up, it was, well, you're the coach's kid, and you're only playing because you're the coach's kid. So you want that silence for people. You don't want to have. But he's done everything we've asked of him, and he's starting to take on more roles as that stopper. And I thought he did a great job on Schaefer last night. He did a tremendous job on Sheldon down in Mandan, and he's going to have another tough matchup on Tuesday. So,
how was it to coach Deset last year? I mean, you hear all about this kid. Brian Hornecker, who I talk to often, he would say, we get home from Bismarck probably around 11:30 midnight. He goes, I want to get some shots up.
Yep.
And it's like, you need to take a break. And now he's playing for North Dakota State for the Bison, obviously, and having himself a good freshman year. What was it like, though, for you to be the head coach, knowing I've got this talented kid, but I want to get the most out of him?
It's funny. I've known Derrick since he was a third grader. He played travel basketball with my oldest son, and Derrick's basically become one of our children. Like, he's called a few times this year when he's been frustrated, and we sent back with his aunt a huge plate of lasagna and chicken wings last weekend to make sure he's eating everything he's supposed to. But he is. There aren't a lot of kids like him, because he's not fake. What you see is what you get. The kid that's polite in public and respectful and smiling and great to young kids. That's him all the time. Like, he doesn't have that fake anything. And it was, I've had a number of coaches like last year say, we want to hate him because he's so good, but you can't, because he's such a great kid. Coaching him is tough because we understood the necessity of our team, but there was at times where we just got to give him the ball and go. And our kids also understood how good he was, but he was also very unselfish. So, like, he would share the ball and he'd get people involved. And then if he did have to take care of a game, everybody's like, let's go, just do what you do. And we're on your back. We're fine with you doing that, because it wasn't a constant ball hog. I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to shoot it. It was a, when I need to take over or the opportunities present, I'll go do that. And he said it this summer. He goes, when I get cooking, he goes, I'm not passing. And I said, everybody on our team knew that, and we were cool with it. But Derrick's just a super kid. He's got a big game here today. In fact, they're down in Denver today, so we got to get back and be able to catch a little bit of that. I've
seen you coach a handful of times in person. I've watched you quite a bit on the PSP network, and really enjoy watching. But one thing I got to ask is, what's with the towel? The towel.
It's been there for 25 years. It's just something, whether it's just something to hold on to or wiping off the board, it's kind of always been there. There's no real anything to it. It's not like I'm, Tarkanian and chewing on it and all that. It's just kind of, it's always been there. And there was only been one game where I forgot it. And,
really?
It was a game in Bismarck, and my wife was actually coming down, and she still gives me crap about it. But I asked her to stop and buy one.
Really?
And she just shook her head.
Did you get it in time?
Yeah, she did. She was on her way down, and this was like one of my first years. So I always make sure I got it. I got them packed and I got them ready, and it's just kind of. It's just always been there. There's no real significance to it, and
it doesn't have to be a certain color, or
it's funny. We start the year with two different colors. Last year was maroon and gold, and if we lost, then we switch colors. And if we lost, I have 4 towels to usually start the year. And this year we started with gold, and we didn't wash it until we lost, and now we're on to black. And then if we happen to drop another one, we'll probably switch colors. And I'm superstitious to a point, but it's just kind of one of those things that it's more like, well, this didn't work. We'll do that in practice. If we're missing shots, we'll just take the ball out and go get a different one.
Yeah,
because it doesn't work. So it just kind of it's just maybe a little goofy. But now I've gotten so long that I'd probably be like Linus and his blanket from the Peanuts. If I didn't have it, I'd be a little lost. So yeah, there's awesome. No real significance at this point.
Appreciate you explaining that. So you're a finalist for the National Basketball Coach of the Year. What is that feeling like, and what were your initial thoughts when you first got that email or that call that, hey, you got a chance to do something really special?
It's remarkable. You know, I don't look at myself as doing anything too tremendous. I look at it as I have great kids to work with. I get to go and impart what little I know about the game to them and share some information and try and get them to be their best. Yep. Not just the best on the basketball floor, but be a great teammate and be a great person and have high expectations for yourself. And, you know, fortunately, I've been doing this long enough and had a lot of great kids and a lot of success that our state association nominated me to go, and so I had to fill out some paperwork, and then when they sent it back and said I was a finalist, it was really gratifying. And this year the national happens to be in Bismarck. Ooh. So we don't have to travel very far to find out. So in June we'll find out, but it's really exciting, and there's so many great coaches out there, and that's one of the things that I don't think enough people realize is to be able to coach high school kids, whether you have success or not. You give so much of yourself to it because we're doing it because we're competitive. It's a way to stay in the game, and you want what's best for the kids because you start to develop a relationship with these kids over time, and you get to know them really, really well, and you get to see how hard they work and how important it is to them. You know, that's the gratifying part when they get to find success. Like this year, one of our senior captains, Lucas Beater, came up and said, "Coach, I got into the University of Michigan." And like, that was a huge announcement for our team. It wasn't, you know, this kid had 27 or this. It was, hey, he got into the University of Michigan. He also got into the Barrett School of Business down in Tempe at ASU.
Jeez,
so I mean,
kid.
yeah. And that what's funny is that was our prerequisite between him and another kid. Okay, who picks first? I said, who's the smartest? And they're both brilliant kids in school. Yeah. And Lucas goes, with all due respect, I'm the smartest. And just like, okay, then you can pick first. And so, you know, and that's what makes it fun. And I look back at when I got recognized, I went back and started thinking about all the tremendous kids, and not only that, but the things that I've done wrong and how I've handled kids poorly. And that's the part that's probably as frustrating as anything looking back now, that I wish I could go back to my first few years and do things differently, and probably would have greater success. Probably would, I shouldn't even say probably, I know we would have had greater success with some of those teams. But that was part of my process of getting to where I am, and hopefully, like I said, I'm the best coach I've ever been right now. I'm the best parent, the best teacher, best husband, whatever it might be, because of the experience that have brought me here. And you know, I've been lucky to have great people to work with in that respect. And this is a shared thing. You look at my staff. Brian's phenomenal. The things he does. I think I subbed a kid last night. But I do no subbing. Mm-hmm. Brian handles all of that. You know, I'll look at him and it was funny. I'll look at him and say, got to get this kid out of the game. Got to do this. And he goes, most of the time I don't even listen to you. Yeah. So it's like I'm at home, you know, with my family, but he goes, I know you're mad about something. And he goes, I got it. I'm not too worried unless you grab somebody. And he goes, I don't even worry if you grab somebody that you throw them in. He goes, it's just kind of one of those things. And to have the sophomore and freshman coaches that we have and the stuff that we have, the staff, we have kids come in all the time. You know, Peyton Shell's probably going to be an all-conference basketball player. Played just a little bit of JV last year. Yep. You know, and the stuff he did with Coach Pearson and the work he did down at that level last year, and Fisher Johnson, same thing. Played some JV and played sophomore at the end of the year, and now he's having a tremendous run for us. It's really gratifying to know that the guys I have, we can trust that our kids are going to be ready to play when we need them to.
I feel so bad because I'm sure you heard about it, but when Pearson came up to play in Divide County, we were going back and forth a little bit. He ended up getting teed up, but you know how it is. It's competitive. I'm a competitive guy too. But so my first game when I came here with my girlfriend, who's Brian's niece, Hornecker, I'd be like, I gotta go say something to him. It's been bugging me for a year. I gotta go say hi. Like, hey, it's all good. And he was pretty cool. And so yeah, it was good to mend that fence. But right when I asked Brian, I'm like, hey, do you think Dean would want to do it? And Kristen, my girlfriend, she's like, well, maybe he won't because you were a jerk to his
Oh,
sister.
jeez. First of all, we're all jerks to Pearson. Let's start with that, with all of that. But I don't know if anyone saw, there was a point in the game last night where Darren was yelling at me about something.
Yeah.
And Darren and I are good friends. We get along. When we compete, we're competitive as all heck. We want to beat each other's brains in. I can guarantee if I called him now, we'd sit in BS and talk about stuff. But, that stuff happens. Jason Horner's probably one of my 2 or 3 best friends, and we've gotten in arguments on the floor. When you're out there, it's different because you're competing. You each have the same thing you want out of it, and when it's over, it's over, and it's water under the bridge more often than not. And it's actually for a funny story later because you can look back and go, "Boy, was I stupid at one point. That was ridiculous."
That's one of the young things. Talking a little bit, Coach, on being competitive and successful. The Minot High girls team has arguably 2 of the best players North Dakota's ever seen, Lily Bell and Maggie Fricky. What are your thoughts when you watch? I know you guys play back to back, so you probably don't get to watch them too terribly much. But when it comes to the Minot High girls, I mean, they're tremendous. What's your thoughts on them?
It's funny, and not to bring up Darren again, but him and I were talking about it. He goes, no one's going to touch them, and I said, well, it'll be hard for people too. I go, you got 2 generational talents, right? And he goes, but look at the rest of their kids.
They're all sophomores.
Yeah,
they're all good.
And the Knutson, Eve went in last night.
She played really well.
Shot the ball phenomenally, and Presley Bennett shooting 40-some% on threes and posted last night. And Carew Lamore guards and plays harder than heck, and she's had games where the ball's gone through at a high rate, and they're
good.
Oh yeah, and they're all good.
The Fricky girl was struggling a little bit because she was having the what's the good player?
Fridley
was Gardner, like face Gardner, so she was getting kind of frustrated, and I was like, ooh, how are they going to handle this? But the other kids stepped up.
Yeah, and that's what's scary about them is, they have obviously those 2. Lily's as talented a young woman as I've ever seen, and then Maggie's not only exceptionally talented, but wildly competitive.
Yeah.
And just driven, and you put those 2 things together. If they didn't have anything around them, they'd be still pretty good.
Oh yeah,
they'd be hard to beat. But you put around them the fact that they have 7, 8 girls, plus those 2.
Right,
they're a hard match.
Oh,
They are, and they all shoot it. They all guard. They're all really athletic.
Well.
Yeah. They're a definite challenge. Like Coach Schwartz and I talk, and he complains and I complain, and both of us have no idea right now what it's like to be on the other side of it. So, I'm sure other coaches, if they heard us complain, they're like, just can you 2 stop it? No one cares that you had a bad practice. So,
question that I really wanted to ask you, and I'm not sure how you answer this, but have you ever thought about coaching collegiate basketball?
I haven't. Believe it or not, I love teaching.
Okay.
I get the opportunity to teach AP World History right now, and I get the opportunity next year to start teaching AP US History. So I get in my class, I get kids that want to be there, and then even in my traditional World History class, I got great kids.
Yeah.
And I have so much fun doing it that I couldn't imagine being on the road. I couldn't imagine going and scouting. The teaching aspect to what I get to do in the classroom and out here is so gratifying. I mean, that's the fun part. Like I hope that the reputation I have in the classroom is better than the reputation I have here. Like I take tremendous pride in my classroom, and I get very excited when our AP scores come in and I see our kids do well. That's awesome. That's an exciting thing for me as well. So I've never thought about it. I've never wanted to. I do. I like high school basketball. I grew up like getting to watch all of it, and I don't think it's ever anything that I would truly enjoy. I don't like bus trips that much.
Yeah.
It's driving to Bismarck's too far. So,
well, we got 2 segments left.
Okay.
This is called 10 for 10. So these are questions. There's no right or wrong answer.
Okay.
It's just kind of your own preference. Okay. So 10 for 10. Dean Wincheski. Away we go. Cat or dog?
Dog.
Hot dog or hamburger?
Hot dog.
Palm trees or evergreen trees?
Palm trees.
Lake or ocean?
Oh, lake.
Favorite actor?
Oh God, that's a good one. I would have to go with the guy who plays Wayne on Letterkenny.
Okay, that's awesome. You like that's right. Favorite band or rapper?
Favorite band? I've always been a huge Bob Seger and BTO fan.
Okay, all right. What city in Texas has an NBA mascot nicknamed the Mavericks?
What city?
What city in
Oh,
Texas?
Dallas.
Yep.
Oh, Jesus.
What city in Texas has an NFL team nicknamed the Cowboys?
Dallas.
What city in Texas spelled backward reads salad?
Dallas.
Who is your new favorite podcaster's vice buddy?
I got set up so bad. Dallas, absolutely.
Well, thanks again for doing this, Dean. It's actually a really big privilege to meet you. You're kind of a hero of mine, if you will. And Swim Lessons, a podcast, is about overcoming the tough times.
Yep.
And what's something that Dean Winczewski, great coach, that you look and say to yourself when your back's against the wall and things are going the best they can?
Well, one of the things that we always talk to our kids about is that we're tougher than we think we are. We've been through a lot as a family, and we've been through a lot of challenging times, whether it's the flood or addiction or having our youngest son get hit by a car, and luckily he survived it. And you have no idea what you're capable of doing until you force yourself to do it. And I think too often we don't recognize the toughness and abilities that we have in ourselves. And that's one of the things that, believe it or not, we actually preach to our kids is you can do this. You can get through this. It's hard. I get it.
Yep.
But the mental part of it is more important than the physical. And you can't ever let yourself stop. And, there's a lot of times that things get challenging and things get hard and you get down on yourself. And you just got to realize, and I have to tell myself this too, that number one, we can get through it. And number two, sometimes we need to get a little help. Sometimes we need to have that person to lean on. And I'm very fortunate with basketball to have Brian when it comes to our stuff with basketball. I'm very fortunate at home to have my wife that is the rock of our family, that kind of takes care of us and makes sure everything's taken care of. And then I have those two really good friends that whenever I need something, I can call on them. And, and sometimes just hearing their voice or getting a perspective or whatever, is essential. And that's how we have to learn to get through things, is to be able to, number one, understand we can. Okay. And number two is to be able to have those people that we can lean on when we need to. Like, I've talked about more as I've gotten older, we keep a really small circle of people around me, and a really small circle of friends. It's not that I'm not friendly to other people. It's not that I'm not nice. It's just that, what is ours, that's ours. And those are the people that I know whenever I need something, they'll come. Brian's one of those people, and Brian's such a unique, and Janet's such a unique person in that way that no matter what we need, they're always there. And like I said, we've got a couple other people that are there, and you get through it by trusting yourself that you can. And then not being afraid to reach out. Too many people want to try and grind it on their own. And I think we've got to kind of put away that machismo, that macho, I can do everything myself, and just understand that sometimes we need that little boost.
Whew. Might run through that wall. That was awesome. That was great. Dean, thanks again for doing this. I wish you the best of luck the rest of the way, and thanks for your time.
No problem. Thanks, Dallas.
Thank you.